Lieutenant Kondo is not just another Imperial soldier. When Kagali and her companions try to escape the capital, they walk straight into his ambush. Then Kondo reveals the truth behind Clayman's fall, and Kagali's last composure snaps. AI Anime and Manga presents... If you are enjoying the series, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe so the next episodes reach more slime fans. Patreon members get early access to upcoming episodes, and that support helps cover the AI narration, subtitles, thumbnails, and rendering that keep this project moving. Now, back to Yuuki and Damrada. Before the trap closes, back in the meeting hall, Damrada made it clear that Yuuki had already missed his chance to escape. It's too late to run away now, I think. You always did blow the landing that way, Sir Yuuki. I think you're underestimating the IIB here.
Maybe I am, but if I struggle hard enough, maybe I can find a way out of this, you know?
Damrada scoffed at him. Don't make me laugh. This isn't a children's game, you know?
Of course not. I'm always serious.
Damrada pressed him. Including with your fairy tale dreams of conquering the world?
Hell yeah. And you're the same, aren't you?
Damrada chuckled, then bellowed from the bottom of his heart, yes, exactly. Yuuki Kagurazaka was, to Damrada, a good boss. He still had a childish side that made him choose immature options at times, but he was cool-headed as well. He was incredibly calculating, and no matter how things turned out, life was never boring under him. That was why Damrada trusted him. He trusted that Yuuki had already realized the truth. Kondo was controlling him like a puppet. For a moment, Damrada could say nothing. At the same time, Damrada's loyalty to Emperor Ludora was completely genuine. He recognized Yuuki and approved of him, but his feelings for Ludora were something else entirely. They could not even be compared. To Damrada, Emperor Ludora was everything. Right now, he was acting in accordance with his promise to Ludora, and fulfilling that promise was what he had pinned his whole life on. He had known Ludora longer than Kondo had, and it was admittedly careless of him to think Kondo would not touch him. He knew he was under suspicion. That was why he had been so careful. But Kondo was even more dangerous than Damrada had believed. Immediately after he said his final goodbyes to Misha, Damrada's will was put under Kondo's control. He could not say how it happened, but no matter what he tried, he could not break it. His consciousness remained fully intact, but every aspect of his actions was now dictated by Kondo. Damrada thought bitterly that he had never imagined Kondo would take over his own body as well. Everyone knew how cautious Kondo was, but this was beyond what Damrada had expected. In that sense, Yuuki had truly outdone himself. If Damrada could not deactivate the control on his own, his only hope was to rely on Yuuki. He had to make Yuuki aware of the situation, but that was a major challenge. No matter how anyone looked at it, this was Damrada betraying the entire movement. It was asking too much, and Damrada himself was close to giving up. But Yuuki noticed it. He did an incredible job. Damrada was deeply moved, even as he could only say what Kondo allowed him to say. Damrada announced, "Allow me, Sir Yuuki, to show you the abilities of the Vice Commander of the Imperial Guardians." The restrictions were permission-based. They blocked what Damrada could do, but within those limits, he tried to relay as much information as possible to Yuuki. Revealing his rank was one such attempt. He had to give Yuuki whatever he could, and after that, Yuuki could use it as he pleased. Convinced this was the right way, Damrada decided to pin his hopes on him. If Yuuki killed him after this, it would all be over. Damrada assumed the promise he had made to Emperor Ludora would be taken on by Yuuki instead. It was a pity he could not see that with his own eyes. Even so, Damrada was sure Yuuki would carry on his will. If Yuuki ever meant to fulfill his lofty ambitions, then he would have to carry out Damrada's objectives as well. Damrada did not have high hopes, but they were hopes nonetheless. Yuuki answered him lightly.
Oh, don't worry about that. I still have work for you to do, you know. I'll help you out of this.
Damrada laughed from the heart. That's the kind of infantile nonsense you've got for me. You don't stand a chance. Controlled or not, nothing could erase the joy welling up from Damrada's heart. Just as that heart desired, he unleashed his emotions. Far from the meeting hall, over 30 warriors were running along the main thoroughfare of the Imperial capital. Led by Kagali, They were attempting to flee the city at night just as Yuuki had ordered, to regroup with the composite division. The division was camped near the Empire's border with the Dwarven Kingdom, over 300 miles southwest of the capital. Merchant caravans would need more than 10 days to travel that distance. Those with enough magic force could use one of the transport gates laid out around the city, first-rate magical technology that allowed travel between supported cities in an instant. But they could not push 100 people through at once, and given their importance, the gates were heavily guarded. Storming one this late at night would obviously start a war. So Kagali did not hesitate. Rather than stir up trouble in the capital, she decided that strengthening her force's position came first. Everyone in the group was far more powerful than an average human. If they kept running without breaks, they could reach their destination in a few hours. Tyr, the young masked woman running next to her, checked on her. "Are you all right, Lady Kagali?" Kagali nodded. "Yes, everything's fine. Thanks for your concern, Tyr." As the former demon lord Kazalim, Kagali had spent years as only a spiritual body after Leon defeated her. She was not a spiritual life form yet, and it took everything she had to maintain her presence. But she survived, and thanks to Yuuki, she had finally obtained a homunculus body of her own. She had trained it until she was as matchlessly powerful as before. Now she was equivalent to a high-level magic born in fighting strength, one who would not lag behind the rest of the group. Tyr let out her worry in a softer tone. "Oh? Well, good then. Would have been nice if Laplace were here right now." Kagali agreed. "Yes, I'm sure he could have beaten Damrada even." Footman boomed with his usual clownish confidence. "Well, our boss is no pushover either. I'm sure he'll be back with us shortly after he wins." Tyr brightened. "You said it," Footman added. "Yep, he absolutely will." Kagali flashed a smile, but inside her panic was growing. Alarm bells were still going off, making her anxiety swell. Inwardly, Kagali thought, "This is not good. Not good at all." It was an instinctive hunch, one that had saved her life more times than she could count. She had to do something, even if she had no evidence yet. She turned to Tyr and Footman, her most trusted companions here. Kagali ordered, "Contact Laplace for me." Tyr reacted in confusion. "What?" Kagali made it sharper. "Tell him to come back here." It was no problem for Tyr and Footman to contact Laplace through telepathy. No matter how far apart they were, the clowns were always connected to each other. Tyr hesitated. Laplace is on a messenger run, but... Kagali cut her off. "I don't care, hurry up." The alarm bells only Kagali could hear rang louder. There was no time to explain. Leaving Tyr behind, she moved on to her next order. Kagali shouted, "Everyone disperse! Survival's your top priority. Take any measures you see fit to..." She was ordering them to find their own ways back to the composite division, but she never had the chance. She realized too late that it was already over. A man's voice came from the darkness. "What a surprise! I thought I eliminated any sign of my presence. You did well to notice me." A man in a military uniform emerged. It was Lieutenant Kondo. With him came a group of operatives silently rappelling down the buildings lining the main street. There were about 50 in all, and each one exuded a presence that was nothing short of overwhelming. Kagali recognized them with a chill. "Imperial Guardians." Kondo answered flatly. "That's right. Cease your futile resistance and surrender at once. If you do, I'll give you the honor of dying for His Majesty the Emperor." Kagali challenged him. "So you admit it then, Lieutenant? You're the commander of the Imperial Guardians?" Kondo's expression remained blank. He neither confirmed nor denied it, but to Kagali, that was enough. Her group crowded together, keeping careful watch on the night surrounding them. Combat was no longer avoidable. Each enemy was armed to the teeth, covered head to toe in legend-class armor. Perhaps the two sides were evenly matched in raw strength, but the difference in gear was as clear as day. It was a dizzying disadvantage, but none of Yuki's troops would give up now. Tornawat, who had been at death's door only minutes ago, fired himself up. "Ha! Let's do it, huh? This'll just save us time later." Aliyah followed his lead. "Right. Let's see what the Guardians can really do." As superpowered as they all were, they had no intention of admitting defeat without trying. In the meantime, Kagali desperately analyzed the situation. The probability of all of them surviving was practically zero. At this stage, the only tactical victory they could gain was transporting as many comrades as possible to the composite division camp. To achieve that, they needed to buy time. Time until Yuuki defeated Damrada. Time until Laplace could return and help. Precious time was what Kagali needed most. Kagali thought, I hope one of the two makes it in time, but let's see what happens. She took a step toward Kondo. Kondo regarded her. Oh? You want to be my opponent? Kagali kept her voice steady. Yes. I want to see for myself what the head of the Guardians is capable of. Kagali understood that her own strength was far below Kondo's. Her objective was to serve herself up as a decoy. Even if she could not win, if she could at least carve out some time, that would be enough. With that thought in mind, she steeled herself and faced Kondo. The lieutenant, on the other hand, seemed almost oblivious to her, sighing at the combat beginning around him. Kondo said, I detest waste. I have no intention of putting up with your stalling attempts, and you need to understand that wanting it more won't help you win a war. Kagali pushed back. You think? Because I think if you pray enough, you might just see a miracle. Kondo's reply was cold. Imagine an ex-demon lord raving so incoherently. Kagali sneered back. Only a very few companions were supposed to know that she used to be a demon lord, but Kondo had just blared it out for the world to hear. To put it another way, he had decided it was too insignificant to keep secret. Kagali asked, You're really looking down on me, aren't you? Kondo answered without concern. I'm not intending to, but let me tell you something else. I imagine you're trying to regroup with the composite division, but don't bother. His Majesty himself has just organized a force and set out to defeat them. Kagali froze. What? The Emperor going off to battle was an extremely unusual state of affairs. But what caught Kagali's attention even more was that a force had been organized. Kondo continued. What did you expect? Only the strong matter to us. If you swear loyalty to His Majesty, then fine. But a bunch of minnows with no chance to evolve? No, thank you. Kagali demanded. What do you mean? Kondo laid the answer out. Am I not getting through to you? The only reason you're being kept alive right now is because you still have the potential to evolve. All of this is going according to His Majesty's plan. Kagali's anger flared. Don't give me that. Are you saying you knew our entire scheme? Kondo gave her a resentful look. What a silly question. Or did you think you were pulling the wool over our eyes here in the capital? A dim, angry flame lit itself in Kagali's heart. It was humiliation. With her unique skills schemer, Kagali had formulated a wealth of plans and succeeded in most of them. She had made several mistakes recently, mostly in relation to Rimuru, but she was proud to be Yuki's close confidant and chief strategist. Kondo simply sniffed at all of that. Kagali bit out, How dare a mere human like you talk that way? Kondo turned the phrase back on her. A mere human? Do you mean Yuuki Kagurazaka? The wave of anger nearly blinded Kagali, like a rush of blood to her head. But she could see that this was Kondo executing his plan. If she let anger take control, it would cost her a battle that still might be winnable. As proof, Footman was now attacking Kondo like a berserker, perhaps inspired by Kagali's anger. He was the strongest attacker among the clowns, and now he was unleashing massive missiles of magic without sparing a moment to consider the damage to the city. Kondo avoided them with little effort, but sirens were going off. Before long, there would be panic in the streets. At this rate, the rebels would have to deal with guardians, security forces, and curious onlookers all at once. Kagali saw no reason now to mind her manners. They would have to treat anyone in their way as an enemy and blow them away. But Kondo and his men were just as aware of that. So why was Kondo allowing it to happen? Kagali did not know. Kagali forced herself to think, stay calm, chill out, he's just trying to make me angry. She had seen through his scheme. All she had to do was refuse to play along. So she stifled her anger. Then, out of nowhere, she felt a great unease, as if she had overlooked something serious. Kagali's thoughts sharpened. Wait, Damrada was under someone's control. If that was Kondo's doing, Footman and Tyr were both joining the battle. Around them, Yuuki's comrades were in a pitched battle to the death against the Guardians. Not even that changed Kondo's expression. He now held a revolver in his right hand, drawn from parts unknown, and a sword in his left. That was his answer to Footman and Tyr, both of whom outclassed a demon lord in force, and he still seemed completely relaxed. They had expected him to be powerful, but this was beyond all expectation. He must outclass Damrada, Kagali sensed, realizing all over again how dangerous he was. He had his gun out, but he did not show any intention to shoot. He engaged Footman and Tyr with his sword alone. Even Kagali could tell it was a masterful weapon. What she did not know was that, despite appearing to be a standard-issue sword from the Imperial Japanese Navy, the blade itself was a work of art, with a beautiful rippled streak along the edge. It was a family heirloom, handed down through Kondo's family for generations. No cheap imitation an amateur would swing around. It was not the kind of weapon anyone would normally wield with one hand, but Kondo was doing just that, holding the lower part of the hilt with his left. It was hard to believe he would normally carry it this way. That suggested he was not showing his true ability yet. Kagali thought, "This man is a menace. He's taking both of them on, and he's not even trying to fight seriously yet. But why? If he wanted to kill them, he would be far more engaged than this. If he isn't, then maybe he sees some kind of value in us. In other words." Then Kagali arrived at the answer. She shouted, "Look out! Kondo might be able to control people somehow." Kondo did not deny it. "You're right." Kagali had thought he would reject the accusation, but he did not. That was unnerving. Kagali tried to reason it out. So he's just revealing his hand? No. There's no point denying it if we already suspect it. If he confirms it, though, that makes us warier of him. I don't get it. Why? Now she was no longer sure what to believe. Kondo's behavior was beyond her understanding, and she could not see her next move. If fighting would not bring victory, the original stall-for-time strategy should still have been best. But she had no idea why Kondo was allowing it. Then the realization hit her. No, it's just not right. He said he wasn't going to put up with our stalling, so why? Wait, that's what he meant. Only then did Kagali realize just how much of a menace Kondo truly was. Everything he said had meaning. Through truths and lies woven together, he was controlling every aspect of the fight. Kagali whispered, "You're stalling for time too." Kondo answered as if she had finally caught up. "Oh, you finally noticed? You see how I'm helping you with your silly attempts at buying time now?" Kagali choked back her frustration. Kondo continued. "It's too easy to decipher the thoughts of someone like you see." Despite her attempts to stay calm, his taunts were hitting home. Kagali snapped. "Don't give me that." Kondo cut across her. "Do you know why they call me the mysterious figure stalking the halls of information?" Kagali gave no answer. Kondo supplied it himself. "You said it yourself, didn't you? You just said I could control other people. So why don't you also see that it's simple for me to obtain information from the people under my control?" Kagali wondered in astonishment what he was talking about. It sounded too amateurish to be a lie. But if it was true, it was a tremendously important secret to leak. It was hard to believe that such a careful man would expose his own hand like that. Kondo went on. "This is a hassle for me as well, you know. Not even I know everything. The plan was to make contact with you all on the outskirts of the city. We'd hardly want collateral damage inside the capital, and going easy on you in battle like this is more trouble than it's worth." Kagali stared at him. "Going easy?" Footman blustered beside her. "You think that little of us, do you?" Kondo's statement drove Tyr and Footman into even more enraged excitement. They were being taken in by his scheme, and Kagali knew how bad that was. Her agitation grew. Kagali tried to stop them. "Calm down, you two. Don't let his words disturb you." Kondo shot her a glance, looking less than amused. Then, after a quick look at his revolver, he put it back on his belt for reasons only he knew. Kondo said, "What a pain. Come on. Allow me to neutralize you as a threat without killing you." The moment he grasped his sword with both hands, the atmosphere changed completely. Now his aura was something only a true master could achieve. Footman moved forward. "Here, allow me to take over here. Let's go, human." The two of them together struck such a presence that even those fighting around them felt pressured into stopping. Kondo kept his sword high, pointed up in the air as he quietly gauged his foe. Footman, meanwhile, seemed to ignore all semblance of defense. His aura coursed across his body, shooting him forward like a gigantic bullet. He pinballed around, showing amazing agility for his well-nourished body. Then, accelerating with every bounce off the ground, he jumped around Kondo, hopping erratically from landing point to landing point and growing faster all the time. Footman laughed as he attacked. "Try to follow me if you can." Convinced he was exercising his full potential, Footman unleashed his finishing move on Kondo. The secret to his battle technique was the unique skill amplifier. Whether the movement took waveform or existed as mass, he could accelerate it at will. Simply bouncing off something sped up his body, and he could amplify his weight as well, giving himself mass far greater than his appearance suggested. The sheer kinetic energy this generated could likely tear any enemy to pieces. Footman roared, "Take this, angry splatter!" With absolute confidence and destructive power on his side, Footman lunged for Kondo. But without the slightest change of expression, Kondo unleashed a skill of his own. Kondo's quiet announcement came only after it was all over. "I've just executed Thundering Universe. You had best consider it an honor." In a single instant, Footman's arms and legs had been severed. The action was far too quick to catch with the naked eye. It would have been impossible if not for the awe-inspiring difference in ability at play. Footman's head was still attached, but blood now spurted from a gaping wound across his neck. Not even that would be enough to kill him, but he was out of the battle. Kondo turned to Tyr. "And you're Tyr, aren't you? Bind his arms and legs and stop the bleeding out of his neck while you're at it. I can't have him dying on me yet." The order was given flatly, without emotion. The revolver was back in his right hand. Kondo had returned to his original style, and his body language showed that he had no interest in fighting anyone else. Kagali demanded, "What? What are you thinking?" Kondo answered, "I'm not going to kill any of you. Especially you, Kagali, or the ex-demon lord Kazalim, I should say. You have a lot of value to us. We can't afford to have you dead." Kagali's hatred rose. "Come on, you think I'm going to do that after what you've done?" Kondo replied with faint amusement. "Hey, I'm not asking for forgiveness. Didn't I tell you that I can control other people? How loathsome could one man be?" Kagali eyed him with hatred. His manner of speaking irritated her to no end. She thought she understood the situation, but she could not shake the feeling that she did not. Every word Kondo uttered got on her nerves. Then a red burst of light emerged from Kondo's handgun. Seeing it, Kondo smiled a little. A tiny, easily overlooked smile. Kagali was amazed he could smile at all. At the same time, the loudest alarm bell yet rang through her. Kagali thought, he was really stalling? It was true? It was far too late to realize that. She hated being toyed with for so long, but she still searched for the best way out. Kondo clearly had all his cards in order, even if she did not know what they were. Escape was impossible. Buying any more time would be a challenge. So there was only one choice left. Kagali had to strike at the source of the danger, the calamity about to fall upon her friends. In other words, a suicide strike. Death, she determined, was the best way to prevent information leaks. But as a walking dead, Kagali would not truly cease to exist. She would lose her physical body, yes, but as long as she inhabited someone else, she would survive. Footman and Tira would understand what she meant to do. They were walking dead as well, and just like Kagali, literal death was unlikely. If all of them advanced on Kondo at the same time, they could fulfill their objective without revealing their true intention. Even if they all lost their bodies, they could escape and avoid the worst-case scenario. That was Kagali's decision, the best chip she had to play. Kagali thought, how annoying. Sir Yuuki went through all this trouble to obtain my body. It took me a while to settle in too. Still, it beats losing everything. I hate involving Footman and Tyr in this, but I'll see that they receive stronger bodies next time. Her mind was made up. Laplace, she believed, would help clean up later. Kondo was simply too strong. Based on her current assessment, he and Laplace were evenly matched, or Kondo had a slight advantage. Even if Laplace arrived and they fought together, victory would not be assured. It would be foolish to drag him into danger as well. What Kagali still wondered was how Kondo took over other people's minds. She wanted to flee after discovering that, but it might be too greedy of her. So, putting aside her doubts, she sprang into action. Kagali called to her companions. Well, just look at how much this human's toyed with us, huh? Footman, Tyr, stop playing with him and let's give him everything we've got. And you'll get to see the full powers of the one they used to call a demon lord. Kagali stretched her aura across her body, exercising power beyond all her limits. A borrowed body like this one had no chance of withstanding it. It would be lucky to survive another few minutes. But this way, at least, she could settle matters without Kondo realizing she had chosen to end her own life. Footman and Tyr saw Kagali's move and immediately understood her plan. Footman rallied himself. It'll take more than blowing my limbs off to stop me. Tyr answered with excitement. Yeah, and I'm still in this too. I haven't gone all out in ages upon ages either. It's so exciting. Following Kagali's lead, Footman balled up his body and started bouncing around. Tyr began unleashing her aura as well, blowing it up into a massive presence in the middle of the capital. If Kondo could be convinced this was a suicide strike aimed at taking both sides out, the strategy would succeed. But despite the situation, Kondo did not even bat an eye. He remained calm and measured as he sheathed his sword and spot-checked his revolver. Then, as casually as could be, he rained all over Kagali's parade. Kondo said, "So I understand that Walking Dead can survive in spiritual form alone?" It was a statement they ignored at their peril. Among their companions, only Yuuki knew the trio's exact species. It was highly confidential information, something not even Damrada knew. Nobody, not even Kondo, should have been able to know it. Kagali's voice shook. "Why do you know that?" Kondo gave her the answer as if lecturing a student. War is something that fully ends before it begins, one could say. The armored division was wiped out because they underestimated the enemy and skimped on information gathering. If you simply run wild without any precise intelligence to go on, you're all but guaranteeing your own defeat. Don't you agree? Kagali had no answer. Kondo continued, and this time his words cut deeper. And by the way, I have to say that your comrade in arms was tremendously disappointing as well. I had him all set up at the exact right timing, and then some upstart demon lord completely bowls him over. Hardly a demon lord at all, I'd say. It makes me laugh. Kagali went still. What? Kondo went on. But him losing was more convenient in the end, I suppose. I have a basic grasp of what went on over there, and it led to the creation of someone far more fascinating than Clayman anyway. Kagali's voice cracked with anger. What the hell do you mean by that? Kagali exploded. Any shred of remaining calm was thrown out the window. Her hatred for Kondo made her forget everything else. This was nothing less than a full confession that Kondo had total control over Clayman. Looking back, Clayman had clearly lost his mind over time, a trend that had progressed for at least several decades according to Laplace. Kagali had assumed it was just the stress of becoming a demon lord, chiding herself for being overprotective of him. But if it was all Kondo's doing, that was different. It meant Kondo had a hand in virtually every failure in her plans, and that was impossible to forgive. Worst of all, it was Kondo's manipulation that sent her beloved Clayman to his demise. Kagali's thought became a vow. He has to pay. I'll never let this pass. Her anger was beyond anything she or anyone else could control. Footman, sensitive to that anger, picked up on it and amplified it further. In the end, ironically, that was exactly what Kondo was hoping for. Kondo said, "Getting emotional in the middle of battle? What a novice mistake. If that's all the resolve you have, no wonder it was so easy to lead you to a trap like this. With that, Kondo pulled the trigger. Kagali cried out. There was a small bang. Kagali jumped back. There was no blood. This was a very special bullet, one that affected not the body but the mind. It was called a Dominion bullet, a treasure granted by Emperor Ludora, and one of Kondo's secret techniques. Each bullet contained a part of Ludora's own power, making it capable of enthralling and controlling others. However, it worked on just one person at a time, and it was very likely to fail against those with strong mental fortitude. Kondo had an ample supply, but he still had to be careful about how he used them. If a shot missed its mark, it would expose his hand to the enemy and cost him control over whoever he had last shot with a Dominion bullet. Taking over a demon lord's mind required targeting them while asleep or in an agitated state, blinded by lust or by negative emotions like anger and grief. Once the target was in the right condition, he could fire a Dominion bullet and gain full control. Kondo spoke to the captured Kagali. Well, it took long enough, but we're still sticking to the plan. Kagali, order your cohorts to cease hostilities immediately. You're a careful person, so I assume you've implanted a locking curse on the summoned? Kagali answered with perfect obedience. Yes, Sir Kondo. Kondo corrected her. Drop the sir, please. Lieutenant is fine. Kagali obeyed. Yes, Lieutenant Kondo, as you wish. Thus, Kagali fell into Kondo's hands. Just as Kondo had predicted, the souls of Yuki's comrades all had a locking curse etched into them. The same was true of Tira and Footman, and thus they could not disobey the words of their commander Kagali. Not everyone present had this locking curse, but it quickly became clear how doomed they were. Better, they reasoned, to be captured than to keep resisting this horde. Silence returned to the darkness of the capital. Kondo addressed the defeated group. If you want to hate anyone, hate yourselves for being so powerless. Everyone has their own sense of what makes right, but only when integrated into a stronger will can it be acted upon. The same is true for one's ideals. Your ambitions all vanished in the face of His Majesty's just cause. Nothing more and nothing less. This was the one true rule. Survival of the fittest. Kondo understood it well. He continued, Of course, those who are not prepared to be crushed in the end aren't even qualified to have ambitions at all. That does not apply to you, so I'll be sure to remember your disappointments for you. Kondo himself lived with a certain resolve. That was why he never mocked Kagali and her friends for what they had attempted. If he lost, as he knew from experience, he would suffer the exact same fate. Elsewhere, Yuuki and Damrada were deep in a fierce battle, exchanging one blow after another for what seemed like the millionth time. Without hesitation, Damrada aimed a spinning back blow at a pressure point on Yuki's face. Yuuki blocked it with a palm and tried to gain control of Damrada's wrist, but Damrada denied him with a chop. Yuuki anticipated it, twisting his upper body back as he executed a double kick. Damrada picked up on that as well, sinking down and sweeping with his leg. Yuuki jumped over the counter and tried to take Damrada's head off with a spinning kick, but his leg cut through empty air. Damrada was already back on his feet at a safe distance. It was a sophisticated, refined exchange of martial arts beyond what human beings could normally maneuver. They repeated it again and again at a pace so regular it almost looked like a training session. But they were going too fast for the normal human eye to follow. The lack of spectators was a pity, though any audience would have needed extraordinary skill just to appreciate what they were seeing. This was a battle between dedicated masters, fought only with their well-honed bodies. But that was not all that was taking place. Yuuki was trying to communicate with Damrada, not with speech, but through telepathy. Damrada was helping him do it. That was why there was so much unnecessary physical contact. When their hands met for an instant, that was when they exchanged messages. When the link finally opened, Yuuki sent his thought across.
Wow, we're finally connected, huh? I didn't expect you to gain an ultimate skill as well, Damrada. You have no idea how much trouble I had opening a telepathy link to you. Have you had this since we met, perhaps?
Damrada answered through the link. It was borrowed, Sir Yuuki, but yes, I've been in possession of it for as long as we've known each other. I don't use it very often, however, so I doubt you would have noticed. Yuuki could not help but snicker. When he awakened his own ultimate skill, only then did he realize the mind-boggling difference between ultimate skills and regular unique skills. Still, something in Damrada's reply could not be ignored.
Borrowed? What do you mean?
Skills like these were by nature acquired by the person themselves. Some people could craft them as Yuuki did, but they could not simply be conjured out of nothing. They were born from one's own desires, changing the form of the power within the soul. It was not something that could be borrowed. Damrada replied, I mean exactly what I said. My power was granted to me by His Majesty.
Is that even possible?
Damrada acknowledged Yuki's skepticism. I understand your doubts, but you have me as a witness. You'll have to accept that it is possible, yes.
I see. Fair point.
Having it phrased that way, Yuuki had no choice but to accept it. That naturally led to his next question.
So can he just pass on skills to anybody he wants?
Damrada smiled as he answered, Oh no. The average person does not have the capacity to obtain even a unique skill, much less an ultimate one. Simply accepting that power requires an enormous amount of energy. You'd need to be completely remade, the way otherworlders are, to pull it off.
Well, that's a relief. I was worried the Emperor was holding a closeout sale on ultimate skills.
Damrada laughed. No, he hasn't managed that yet. It is one of his objectives, however. Yuuki could accept that.
And that's why he's gathering all these strong people?
Damrada confirmed it. Precisely. Humans too can evolve after enough training. Their entire species changes and they become enlightened. As a saint, Sir Yuuki, I believe you know the process?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yuuki had a general understanding. Humans could go from enlightened to sainthood, and that took more than ordinary training. Even the 10 great saints deemed the strongest in the Western nations had only 2 true saints among them, Hinata and Sa'er. Damrada continued. Only upon becoming enlightened can one break free from the framework of humanity, where they must live among their own kind. They remain an individual, but they also gain the ability to connect with the world at large. Those who reach that stage here become Imperial guardians, having passed the minimum requirements His Majesty has put in place.
Being enlightened's the minimum requirement?
Damrada answered, yes, that's right. If you fought against Guy, Sir Yuuki, then you understood just how strong he was, I assume. Even a saint could never beat him.
Yeah, I'll grant you that.
Guy was simply unassailable. That much had been made perfectly clear when Yuuki took him on. No half-hearted attempt would even touch him. Damrada explained the logic. If you want to defeat Guy as an absolute minimum, you must awaken to the ultimate in force.
An ultimate skill, in other words?
It made sense to Yuuki. It came across more strongly now that he had an ultimate skill of his own. The only way to tackle someone with an ultimate was to break out an ultimate of your own. Damrada said, exactly. His Majesty is familiar with this as well. That is why he grants trials to those who are enlightened, to help them awaken further and become vessels worthy enough of the ultimate skill he can give them.
Sounds pretty crazy, but if I were him, I'd do the same thing, I guess.
Damrada sounded pleased. I'm glad you understand so quickly. Yuuki and Damrada smiled at each other. It might be completely illogical to the average person, but Yuuki saw the reasoning behind it. Once you had the methodology down, it could allow you to collect a large number of people with ultimate skills. He disliked that someone else had beaten him to the idea, but he had to admit its charm. The only problem was that it required someone as uniquely qualified as Ludora to engineer.
The fact that Ludora can grant ultimate powers at all is just amazing.
Damrada's telepathic voice turned proud. Yes, it proves his greatness beyond any doubt. And if you become a saint under his tutelage, His Majesty will grant you the ultimate skill alternative. Yuuki could feel the respect Damrada held for Emperor Ludora, and it made him laugh a little. Damrada might still be loyal to Yuuki, but his feelings for the Emperor were a different matter. Yuuki knew that, although he really wished Damrada would hide it a little more. Of course, Damrada normally never made that kind of mistake, so Yuuki assumed he was acting this way on purpose now.
So is Ludora waging this war in order to awaken more of his knights?
Damrada answered, I suppose he would be. Our previous war was stymied by interference from Veldora. But that was a blessing in disguise. A few people evolved into enlightened in the process, so we gained even more power than we lost. Yuuki thought, with both admiration and jealousy, that Ludora had an impressive amount of patience. So the two of them shared thoughts through telepathy as they fought, sparred, or whatever this had become. Finally, Yuuki managed to break through the last of Damrada's psychological barriers.
Oh, here we go. I found the core of the power controlling you.
Damrada sounded relieved. Ah, wonderful to hear. Do you think you can remove it?
Yeah, no problems there. But if I do, won't Kondo find out?
Damrada did not hesitate. I imagine he will, yes, but I'm not sure I care.
Well, here we go then.
They had not been sparring for no reason. Damrada knew about Yuki's anti-skill ability, and he believed it could overcome the thrall Kondo had placed on him. Yuuki knew that as well. Without further instruction, he had spent the fight probing Damrada. Now he would use the new power awakened within him to bring his friend back to normal. Mammon, Lord of Greed, the ultimate skill Yuuki had acquired, specialized in seizing things. It contained the ability Life Stealer, which sapped energy on contact. Using it allowed Yuuki to deal damage simply by punching and having the blow blocked. The exact type of energy taken, magical or physical, depended on the opponent. But whatever it was, Yuuki could take it and use it for himself. Life Stealer did not work on Damrada directly. Damrada had too much strength, and even under Kondo's control, he maintained that strength in the best possible condition. Regardless of his mind's intentions, his body was doing its utmost to interfere with Yuuki. That was thanks to Alternative, the ultimate gift provided by the Emperor. Alternative protected Damrada's very soul, an impenetrable psychological barrier that nullified spiritual attacks. It was combined with absolute physical destructive skill capable of penetrating all defenses. Put together, Damrada had become an undefeated champion in every way. Kondo was able to control him because the Dominion bullets the Emperor gave him were devised to be higher level than Alternative. If Damrada had learned Alternative naturally instead of receiving it as a gift, his body never would have been taken over. It was a real obstacle, and Yuuki had to use anti-skill to the hilt to break down the barriers. In time, though, he found the Dominion bullet lodged in Damrada's soul. Once he had Damrada's permission, he focused his power on it instantly.
Life Stealer.
The bottom of Yuuki's palm struck Damrada's chest. The precisely controlled blow shattered only the bullet and nothing else. It seemed almost anticlimactic, but Damrada was free once more. Damrada thanked him. Thank you, Sir Yuuki.
Yeah, hope you can stop relying on others like that for a while. I'm worried about Kagali's group though. I gotta go, but what are you gonna do?
Damrada answered, let me join you. I need to speak with the Demon Lord Rimuru tomorrow regardless. We'll be proceeding with the coup right after that, so it'd be too dangerous to return to where Kondo is.
True. No need to try patching things up now, is there?
Yuuki laughed, and Damrada joined him. Yuuki asked if he was ready.
Ready to go then?
Damrada replied, by all means. Yuuki turned around and headed for the door, with Damrada nodding and following along. But just then, a cold voice cut across the room. So why were you playing with this outside element instead of taking care of him, Damrada? You weren't seriously planning to betray His Majesty, were you? The cold voice made Yuuki too nervous to move. The real crisis was only beginning.
Route confirmed. The next episode and full playlist are ready.
Then don't stop here. Keep watching in story order and subscribe before the next part drops.